Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the House Committee on Community Safety, Justice, and Reentry. It recognizes the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is a step forward in trying to solve many problems at once. It is a work in progress. I know I'm going to continue to work with Department of Corrections and other colleagues in the Appropriations Committee to try and achieve the goals of the bill, which is to increase crime victim compensation and restitution to victims, also increase amounts going for child support, and also make sure that people have money in savings for when they reenter from incarceration. So, it's really tied to the forced prison labor and valuing human labor, all human labor, and wanting to make sure that people are paid fairly for the labor that they're doing inside prisons and meet our goals. So I respectfully ask everyone to vote yes.
Thank you. Any further comments? Sure. Public hearings on bills that have been referred to this committee today.
Thank you. I am Representative Tarra Simmons from the 23rd Legislative District, which is Bremerton, Paulsbo, Bainbridge Island, and parts of unincorporated Cashapp County.
Thank you, and welcome our Vice Chair, the only formerly incarcerated member of the legislature. I'm not sure if there are any other formerly incarcerated members of legislatures around the country. Are you the only? There's one other.
Well, there's a couple more now since I got elected. We've been working to get other people in other states. So I think we have 3 now. So
well, welcome, and let's hear more about you.
This is really cool to be here in person finally. I remember coming down to the legislature and testifying before this committee so many years before I got elected. And this is my first time actually in person getting to testify before you. So thank you, Mr. Chair and Assistant Ranking Member Mossbrucker and all of my colleagues. It is a burden and a blessing both to be the first formerly incarcerated legislator in our nation. And this issue caused me a lot of trauma when I was incarcerated. And I think that's why I'm here, is to bring my lived experience into this magical space where we can actually implement change. Today, you'll hear about the 13th Amendment to our United States Constitution and how slavery was abolished except for punishment for a crime. And that's what's going on today in Washington State. People are still being punished with forced labor because they have committed some kind of offense. And those offenses are often rooted in mental health and substance use disorder. And this is the way our legislature has gone for many years, is to decide that people who have mental health issues and substance use disorder are criminals, and we're going to put them in prison instead of get them health care, and then we're going to force them into labor. Many people, in the legislature want to, or it's easier to think that people in prison are bad people. It doesn't take much thought or nuance in our thinking to think that way. And maybe they deserve this kind of punishment. But I'm here to tell you that 95% of the women that I was incarcerated with were victims of severe childhood abuse, sexual assault, and trafficking, and so many other things. And they don't deserve this type of punishment. There's also a lack of programming in prison. We don't have a lot of no access to mental health care, really. And so when I was in prison, I spent my time self-organizing with other women to do things like celebrate recovery, Bible studies, crocheting circles, and things like that. And that's really what helped me heal. But the DOC will have you work with threats if you do not work for 42 cents an hour in the kitchen or in the custodial unit or in the laundry room, and you will get a major infraction. And that means you can go to solitary confinement. But for me, what that meant is that I couldn't see my kids. My kids came to visit every weekend. And if I did not do what they said and work for 42 cents an hour, then I could not see my children. And so I think, that coercion is really tied to the 13th Amendment and the abolishment of slavery, and how we have said we're not going to have people be slaves unless we're going to force you because you've committed an offense. This bill, and I also want to give another example of what $55 a month will get you in prison. First of all, the maximum you can get for class 3 jobs is $55 a month, but then that's deducted by LFOs, child support, cost of incarceration, all this other things. So you might come out with like $25 a month. And for a menstruating woman who needs to buy tampons tampons on the commissary because when I was there, feminine hygiene products were very subpar if you got them. And if you had a heavy flow, you had to go to the doctor and pay a medical copay to go to the doctor and then hope that the doctor would believe you that you needed more. So many of us had to buy tampons on the commissary, which is $6 a box. Then we have to buy our own deodorant, Q-tips, shampoo, conditioner, soap. And to do that on $25 a month when you're working, 40 hours a week at 42 cents an hour, I think is just inhumane. So this bill actually, I'm trying to actually make everybody whole. So it's about supporting victims too, because I was a victim long before I was ever a prisoner. And I want people to be able to earn their money so they can pay their restitution, so they can also send money back home to support their children, but then also have savings. So when they come out of prison, they're not released with $40 and a bus ticket. They can pay for housing and transportation and actually have a fighting chance of not coming back. That is community safety. That is making sure people don't go back to working in the underground economy and have a fighting chance. And so I'm trying to do this because what I've heard in the last couple of years from some of my colleagues is they don't want to give people housing vouchers. They don't want to give people food stamps. They don't want to give people things. Well, let's let them earn something so when they come home, they have those things. So I am really just asking my colleagues here to work with me. I know that this bill is not perfect. I have talked with the Department of Corrections. I'm willing to modify and actually increase the amount that we give to restitution to victims and to child support, maybe play with those numbers a little bit. But I would really hope that some of my colleagues across the aisle would open your heart and understand that people in prison we're all victims first, and that this policy is egregious and that we can work together to change it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Well stated and from your own lived experience. So if you could come and join me